Welcome back to the Elkaroo discussion channel.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah. Not sure what we're going to call this, but it's Conversations with David, maybe. I think there is a movie similar name. Conversation with David. If you don't know who David is, there is an introduction in the video about loneliness, the video that we did about Deep in the Silent Sea. So we're not going into that now. We're going to go straight to the next song. The next song, which is the Valkyrie. And David and I have had some pre-discussions, listened to the song, and we have arrived at the core issue in the song is the question, am I worthy? As a man or as a human being, I guess. But the song is a man goes into war, he gets killed, and there is a repeated question somewhere in the song where, you know, if the Valkyrie gonna pick him up. So he's singing, will she come for me? Repeatedly, will she come for me? Will she come for me? So for you guys to understand, the song is built on the Norse mythology, and in that, Odin, that is the head honcho god for the Vikings and stuff, he has some working maids, ladies, that's called Valkyries, and they got wings, and one of their tasks is to pick up good men, basically, as they die, and bring them up to heaven, you could say, Odin's golden hall.
Sure.
And what we arrived to was that this is a core thing in most men's life, and I guess women too somehow, that we ask ourselves, am I worthy? Am I good enough? So you who have worked like 45 years with people that are unhappy and want to fix their life, would you agree that that's a core thing?
Oh, sure. I just don't think I don't think there's a solution. I don't think a human being can really be worthy because they can't, because it's impossible for you and I to show the appropriate gratitude to our mother and our father for our life. It doesn't matter what we do, we can never repay or equate or give something of equal value. We can't do it. It's impossible.
No, you gave, sort of gave us
exactly.
life.
And I think you've got the same dilemma here. I think when you talk about, am I worthy from a divine perspective, you know, am I worthy? When Odin looks down there through the eyes of his Valkyrie, excuse me, and he looks on me, you know, about whether I'm worthy or not, there's nothing I can do, really.
No, but I guess the question is, so I guess if we imagine or think about that this life going to end one day, how do we want to be remembered? It's like a review. You're looking back in the reverse mirror of your life and you ask yourself, because almost every religion and stuff have some either punishment. So in Christianity, you go to hell if you're not worthy. Sure. Or St. Peter's, whatever his name with a key, right?
Well, then if you're a Nordic Viking, you get to hold a Valkyrie's hand or whatever the other option is. You know?
So I guess the question, when we look back in our life, we might have a lot of regrets. But I've been a good guy. I've been donating money to save the children every month. Whatever it is.
Sure.
But I agree with you. Like being worthy or repay the gift of life to the universe, creative force, or wherever we come from. You know?
Just our mother and father.
Yeah. Well, they're part of the universe creative force.
They are. And the only thing we can do is fall on our knees and put our head down on the ground and say thank you. There's no more. You know what I mean? It is such a big thing. And I think being worthy of spiritual upliftment, which is basically what's going on here in the Valkyrie story, I don't think that it's within our capacity to do that, to be to manipulate that, to be worthy, you know.
I totally agree on a deep philosophical level, but if we lift it up to a day-to-day human dilemma stuff, so you would have worked with a lot of both men and women that have relationship issues, thinking about breaking up or whatever, they're unhappy in the relationship. Now, I've done some work, but I mainly have come across this particular thing that I'm leading up to in men's groups. So I've been in a number of men's groups, and I would say a very, very common thing amongst men, at least in a men's group, when they're not happy in the relationship, they claim that I'm never good enough for her. She's never happy. It doesn't matter what I do, you know. Stories like, you know, there was one day I cleaned the floor, I washed up in the kitchen, I vacuumed, I did this, and yet when she came home from work, she pointed out that I haven't bought the milk I promised.
So because she's got history from generations back where the survival of her children depended on how powerful a man was. And so they were very, you know, so there was a whole process. And as our societies evolved and ideas of equality and whatever have come to the surface, and the history of abuse of women by men in general, you add that to it, you've got this situation where the relationship gets out of balance. Okay, the woman feels insecure, and the more insecure she feels is the more she tests them. You know, it doesn't matter what you do, it's never good enough. That's part of the test, to see whether you will actually stand up to her and say, now listen, move on. I couldn't see, we've got a public video here, I think I cannot say the magic word.
Cut that out, we're going to go viral.
And the moment he does
it,
she relaxes because she knows she's got a man who's prepared to stand up to her. And the problem, and of course, all of the communication is about you shouldn't do that, which even makes it harder.
Oh, you mean in the modern politically correct? You can't stand up.
We're killing ourselves. You know what I mean? And the other thing about it is most women don't know they do it.
It's unconscious.
Once their emotional stability, in terms of them knowing they've got a man they can rely on, okay, once that gets disturbed, they become more and more insecure, you know, and so they test more and more and more. And so a relationship that was reasonable can easily just end up a disaster in a very short period of time, unless that particular issue is addressed. When we're all teenagers, it's never the good guys that get a fuck.
I remember that because I was the good guy.
Almost everybody was.
You
know, trying to appease and be nice and and that just makes women want to vomit.
If you need it.
Because you know.
If you need it. Need is very, like women have told me all through my life in a relationship. If I'm needy, I'm so not sexy.
No.
You know.
Not even
if I show for a minute that I really need to have some intimacy, or you know, if I wash up, can we share a bottle of wine?
Sure.
She sniff out what I'm after. I'm needy. I'm so not sexy.
It's true, and it's about the masculinity, the man. You know what I mean? Men aren't women, and women aren't men. You know what I mean? It's simple.
Yeah, it comes to me like David Ida. I mentioned him about something else in the previous video.
Yeah.
Now he's written at least 5-10 books about this
exact subject,
and he's really onto it. Now I remember he was here in Australia
15 years ago.
Yeah, whatever it was. It was probably even before that. And imagine that for the female to blossom and relax and give herself, because even the sexual or the intimate act is that she needs to surrender to the man, right?
Yeah.
In one way or another. Now for her to feel that I need to surrender, she want to give herself to something that is strong and can hold her when she lose her shape, so to speak, when she let go of all her control. She want to feel safe with this man. And he said, just imagine that the woman, as she goes into her feminine essence and give herself, she turn into water. Now the man needs to be strong enough and present enough to hold that, to be the banks of the river for her to surrender into. And she's testing this. Are you strong enough? Are you strong enough? And if you fall apart and waver all the time, she feels, I can't surrender.
She loses all of her sexuality.
Yeah, I can't surrender to something that is weaker than me, so I need to hold it together. And the sexual dynamic of attraction and everything goes out the window. And I say, my experience is that that's so true. And it's bloody hard as a man sometimes when if you're any needy and if you carry the question, am I good enough or whatever, in your head, when she's testing you, why didn't you buy the milk? Why didn't you buy, you said you're going to buy the milk. And if you need it, you push it away, you become what David Ida say, non-present. You go into reaction and you get angry and everything. So in her conclusion is, he's not strong enough for me. Just what you said. Sure. It's an interesting stuff.
So here we have Odin sending off these Valkyries, right, to get the ones that are worthy. And the interesting thing in the song was the guy wasn't sure whether he was worthy or not, and the Valkyrie still came for him.
Yeah, she did, yeah.
So I think, well, if you have a look at it from that point of view, there's an agenda at play that the individual can't even know what the game's about, really. If you think, if I'm doubting whether the Valkyrie, when she walks through that door, is going to take me to heaven, you would imagine that doubt would be enough for not to get chosen.
In a way, because it's a sign of weakness.
That's right.
Yeah,
but the Valkyrie came anyway.
Yeah.
But that's only, it's that internal dialogue stuff, I mean. And we were talking about that internal dialogue in the loneliness thing. Yeah.
I mean, the truth is, like, they knew it thousands of years back in philosophy and Buddha and everything, that we create our reality through our thoughts and our belief system and and that's so true for anyone and any issue, and anyone that watches this video. A really important thing is to investigate what is it that you keep telling yourself in your head all the time. What's the thoughts what's the stories you carry? What's the belief about yourself in relationship to things like worthiness, loneliness and stuff? Because whatever you're thinking, it's going to be your reality.
And whatever your father has said to you, if we're talking about men, and whatever your father has said to you when you're a small child, is going to be reflected in terms of the relationship between you and Odin and the Valkyrie. It'll be the same thing, because if your father doubted you or, and they all do, the fathers aren't humans, you know what I mean? They're not perfect by any stretch of imagination. And so, for whatever the dynamics are, the child carries this, and if it's not worthy for its father, how can it be worthy for anything else or its mother? So if there's a question, I'm just thinking about this as I go along, of course, but if there's any question about whether I'm worthy of the love of Jesus or Buddha or any of those other supposed people, it's got to go back to how I feel in my own house with my own parents, really. Not the public relations version I give. How you going? Yeah, great to see you. Been sailing? You know, not that bit. You know what I mean? Like, how do you really? You know.
So your deep beliefs that you picked up, whether it's true or not.
And trauma too. You know what I mean? Like, and some of the things that, and of course we suppress a lot of it, and so we've got this trauma. We're not even aware of the bloody stuff. But it shows up in our how we relate in life. So I reckon this thing about, it's a great convo, by the way. I'm very pleased because I've been thinking about it for a couple of days now. This thing about unworthy, you know, it's like the rest. It's like in many things. It's an internal journey to get resolution within yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because are you worthy of yourself? That's the real question.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it comes very late in life for most people, like midlife.
Worthy?
That coming home to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And realise that the answers, the resolution to everything is actually your relationship with yourself and not the world. But like all the first half, at least, of your life, you're out there trying to get answers, resolutions and approval and rewards and get your which is like a really, it drains you completely, you know. I'm just thinking, so I think the essence of what you say, at least for men, being disapproved or believe that you weren't good enough for your father is an absolutely cool. And I remember, so we probably have, most of the viewers are into music because Elkaroo and the stuff. Elton John was completely rejected by his father. His father didn't like him. He never came to his concerts, he never approved. And that haunted him all through his life until he really had a deep, you know, coming back to himself with love, you know, and self-acceptance. And I guess when you do that, you rise from, you stand up from being a child in response, and you can look at your father even with pity or forgiveness.
Sure.
So Elton John would probably think about his father as a very limited man, scarred by his upbringing about being gay, for instance, and all that shit, you know.
Sure.
And forgive his father, and thereby, you know.
And Elton John would have to be 60 years old, wouldn't he?
60?
Is he 60?
Oh, I'll say he's about 75.
In that case, being a homosexual when he was 20 years old, which is in basically 1965, was a good way to get stoned to death. In those days, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if somebody had a gay person in their family,
geez, it was a shame.
Oh my God, you know.
Yeah, that, all the
just terrible.
All the stuff that still exists in our society about, you know, opinions about people that are slightly different, or where they came from, or, you know, all that bullshit. Yeah, that's. But coming back to if his father, to put it this way, we speculate it could be anyone, right? Doesn't have to be Elton John, but probably even Elton John. If his father would totally love him and approve him of his differences and come to his concerts and say, you are okay, if you're gay or whatever, you still... It would have supported him, but society on top... But, you know, that support wasn't there for him at all.
But
go on. Yeah. I just remember there was something in a documentary or wherever I've seen it in an interview where, and it really, it hurt inside me of just hearing it, that he said that his mother came to some concert, maybe one of his first big gigs, and he made it and started to, money started to roll in. And his mother say, his father didn't come because, he really don't like you. I mean, how fucking hurtful that would have been. Back to David Eade, I think
sure.
One of his first books, which is a real, almost like a, iconic, almost Bible for male personal development. The first chapter, Make Peace with Your Father. I think, before, don't even bother going any further with anything. This is a core first thing. Make peace with your father, and there's a lot of really interesting things that he recommend that you actually do, like not just think about it, you write letters, it's a very, the book, by the way, if anyone is interested, it got a very arrogant title. I think it's
The Way of the Superior Man, is that the one?
The Way of the Superior Man. It's a great book, though. I mean, there's so much truth in it.
Oh, absolutely. My son was having a bit of trouble recently, and I said, I think you better read the book.
To make peace with you.
No, he's having girl trouble with...
right,
Yeah,
it's a great book.
On this business about being at peace with your father, I'm now 77 years and 8 months old, and I've only been at peace with my father for the last 3 months. Before that, he died in my house, in my bed, and I couldn't feel anything.
Oh. Gee, that's...
And I could never give myself to him. And I was in the same circumstance with my mother. And it was only since my adventures down that other path that it's taken a bit too, by God. The one with my father wasn't quite so tricky, but with the one with my mother. Anyway, so for the first time in my life of 77 years and 8 months, for the last 3 months, I've been able to have my mother and my father in my heart. Which has been unimaginable.
Yeah, it must feel absolutely
incredible.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Incredible. And, because both of them, I won't go into the details here, but both of them, all I wanted to do was punish them in a way, And anyway, and in that I saw how I'd judged my father, and because he did what we've been talking about. He called me a log of wood. A lot, you're stupid, right? And only trying to encourage.
And pull it up your ass and pull up your socks.
You know what I mean? And boy, I've been in rebellion. Or whatever that is. You know what I mean?
Been a driving force for your life. Yeah.
And the thing with my mother, not only did it affect, not only did the dynamic affect my mother and my relationship, but it also got carried on into my relationship with all other women who I was.
That's what's happening.
God Almighty, it was a nightmare. I had that many phone calls to make after I realised that to apologise
to all your women.
Jesus Christ, and I did it too.
Great, good on you. Not just thinking about it.
No, I did it.
The essence of the question is more: are you at peace with how you have lived and living your life? And if not, do you want to change anything, or is there anything that you deeply want to change? I remember there's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with Stephen Covey, is it? Sounds like a leadership book, but it's actually almost like a guiding book, and of 7 habits that really helps you get a good life. One of the habits are begin with the end in mind is the label of the habit, and I think it's the first one, begin with the end in mind. And he suggests sit down and imagine that you're attending your own funeral. As a fly on the wall. What do you want people to say about you? How you lived your life? What type of person you were? So he said that if you go through that process deeply, that will tell you, give you at least a hint about your values, your guiding compass of how you should live your life. And that, unless you have that clear about yourself and where you want to go, all the other habits about being more efficient or whatever will not help you, because it might take you in the wrong direction, right? Really assess, do I live up to my own deep values about the life I want to live? If I do that, that will give me strength, that if she want to test me or whatever reason, what she say about me have nothing to do about me. Maybe she just had a shit day and she need to spew out some bad energies.
Yeah, sure.
Go on. Yeah, so I guess there is something in that.
Sure. And if you go down that trail, and I agree with it, by the way, well, then you end up at the Buddhist philosophy of the Four Noble Truths.
Okay, what's that?
Well, but they're live beautifully, think beautifully.
Yeah.
You know, it's a model of living that you're talking about incorporating. You're talking about. What we're talking about here is a moral code.
Yeah.
We're talking about really the Knights of the Round Table stuff, aren't we? In terms of that, you know, and you look at the behaviour out there in the world now. Lying, cheating, it doesn't matter what you do if you get the deal, is completely normal and acceptable behaviour. I mean, it's a quagmire. I think in terms of the issue of feeling worthy or good enough or appropriate or whatever, I think the first step you've got to do is set up a code of conduct for yourself which you stick to. And if you stick to that, that'll provide the worthiness or feeling the appropriateness about yourself. And that's the sort of possible thing that may provide
like a practical sort of...
Yeah, you know, go and join the bloody, what do they call, the Lions Club, or there's another business group that have got a moral code they live by.
There are a few of them.
Yeah. I think you've got to work out what you stand for. Yeah. And once you've worked that out, then if you stand for it, it just automatically happens. The rest of it, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can live like a butcher for 50 years and go, oh, fuck, Jesus, I'm so sorry, Jesus. Please forgive me, you know. Spare me, will you?
Well, according to the script, you know, you always have a chance.
Yeah. No, I guess, anyway. So there you go. I can't really say much more.
Yeah. So I think a moral code, deeply connect with yourself and find out that how do you stand in relationship to your own values. And if you're at peace there, just by coming to that conclusion will make you very not so needy about what she say or your father say or whatever. You know, what they say about me say more about them than me, which is, you know, a classic thing. And then you can be more strong and present with your woman or whoever. Well, David, I think it's been very interesting and insightful, and I hope you guys and women, there might be women watching.
Sure, of course there'll be women.
So thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for showing up again, David. I look forward to the next time.
Roger, these are fun. I love coming over here and doing this.
There's a lot of laughing at this.
And it's a learning process too, you know.
Yeah, it's a reflective thing, you know. All right.
Well, I'm going to love you and leave you.